Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This is episode number 78 of season 2025. We're flying through. It's AFLW week 11. We're going to be doing a round 10 review today. We'll go through all 9 matches from round 10. We'll look at all the award leaderboards that we have going on so far this season. We'll then jump into round 11 preview quickly at the end. So a lot to get through in today's episode. If you're new around here, this is the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. My name is Jay. I do 1 to 2 episodes every week, depending on what is happening and what time of the season it is. This week it's just the 1 episode. We'll be back to 2 for a couple of weeks around draft time for the AFL men's competition. Today's episode is fully on AFLW. We do 1 AFLW episode a week during their season. So that's what we've got on today. We're heating up towards finals. So yeah, don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button depending on what platform you are listening to this one on. It goes out on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to leave a comment as well. Give a rating to the podcast, like the video if you're on YouTube, all of that stuff. And yeah, we'll jump into the football matches. There was 9 games, as there is every week on the weekend. So let's jump into them. Don't forget to check out the social medias as well. It's all Aussie Rules everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm sure there's probably others as well. So all Aussie Rules everywhere. Go check it out. Blue Sky, that's another one. Let's jump into it. Port Adelaide hosted Hawthorn. Big game, this one. Port Adelaide season probably over going into this game, in all honesty, but they put up a good fight. This is what we expected to see from them this year. Unfortunately, they left it too late into the season, but we finally saw some of their best football. They kicked straight in this one. 15-4-94, 8-11-59 for the Hawks. So both teams having 19 scoring shots in this match. And just maybe accuracy in front of goals. 15-4 for Port Adelaide is maybe the difference. It was a tight first quarter, 19-15 at quarter time. Half time, Port Adelaide did kick the last 2 goals of the second quarter to give them a little bit of a lead, 17 points. And then they kicked the first 3 of the third quarter. At that point, it was looking very, very much like it was going to be a Port Adelaide win. At that point, it was like 62-27. They were absolutely flying. Hawthorn did come back late in the third through 3 quick goals. But Port Adelaide in the final quarter turned it on again, kicking 5 goals 2 to just 1 goal 4 in that last quarter to run away with the win by 35 points in the end. An impressive effort, impressive game, more like the sort of football we saw from them last year, of course. This is a rematch of last year's semi-final, which Port Adelaide came from 30 or 20-odd points down at 3/4 time against Hawthorn to win that one. This one, they win quite comfortably in the end. They led most of the way. There was only a couple minutes in that first quarter that Hawthorn led, and I think for about a couple minutes again in the second quarter, they led by a point. So overall, Port Adelaide probably controlled most of the game. As you can see, the team rating, that's the All Aussie Rules team rating, puts a few stats into the system, and that's what it spews out. Port Adelaide a 66-3 to a 62-8-9, so pretty high scoring game from both teams, not just on the scoreboard but in the stats column. But Port Adelaide marginally in front, and I think that was a fair result. Port Adelaide had +6 inside 50s. They had 4 extra clearances. I think it's fair to say Port Adelaide played better than Hawthorn in this one. Hawthorn weren't terrible. I mean, they're a team that are going to be playing finals and most likely still play top 4 football. So, yeah, they were good. They just weren't good enough to beat Port Adelaide on the day. They get an opportunity over the next 2 weeks to try and seal that top 4 spot. It's not going to be easy, but they can do that. Potentially with a win this week, might be enough to get them there, but depending on other results. But certainly we'll see after this weekend, I guess. Best and fairest votes. So this is our 3-2-1, basically the Brownlow for the AFLW that we do. Indy Tahu gets the 3. Ashley Woodland's having a really, really good season, gets the 2 votes from us. And Matilda Schultz gets the 1. So we've gone all Port Adelaide, even though it wasn't a massive domination. I just feel like they had all the best players, and then there was a lot of middle range players for Hawthorn, and then probably a lot of low ranked players for Port Adelaide. Is kind of how I saw this game. Indy Tahu kicked 5 goals from 14 touches, was absolutely outstanding. Um, Having a great season, having a really good run of form as well. So Indy Tahu playing very good football. Um, the MVP votes that are on the screen, if you're watching this video, we do top 5 players in our rating system for every single game. Get votes in the MVP / best and fairest for the club. Winning team get 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. Losing team get half of that at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not going to go through them all, but there's the votes based on the rating system. Really good game from Molly Brooksby, one of her best of her career so far, if not her best game. Was really good in my opinion. And yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about it. Port Adelaide, really good game. Hawthorn, maybe not their best performance, but Hawthorn sit third on the ladder, 8-2 with 2 games to go. They play the Bombers this week, so really good opportunity to go to 9-2. I think they finish with Kangaroos, so it won't be easy to go 2 wins to finish the season, but a win this week and a loss for St Kilda against North Melbourne would guarantee them a top 4 finish, because the lowest, lowest they could fall, if that was the case, would be 4th. So that might be it if they can get a win this week and St Kilda lose. Might be enough for top 4. It won't be easy. You probably don't want to be finishing 4th because you don't want to be playing Kangaroos in week 1. But at the same time, if you play them in week 1, you don't have to play them in week 3. So we'll see how that plays out. But they could well have a North Melbourne Hawthorn qualifying final. Might be on the cards. But they could also finish 2nd or 3rd. We'll see what happens over the final couple of weeks. Port Adelaide, they've just left their run too late. They're 4 wins, 6 losses. Percentage isn't terrible. Hypothetically, if they won both games and a lot of other results went their way, potentially there's a mathematical chance. I don't think much of a mathematical chance. I haven't actually worked out the full equations of it, whether it is possible based on who teams play, but they would need an absolute miracle, and they're just not going to get that. 4 and 6 left their run too late. They've just lost too many games that they needed to win this year. Their recent form has been pretty solid. They'll be kicking themselves that they let that St Kilda game go about a month ago when they were 20-something points up at 3/4 time. They're going to finish pretty similar spot to where their men's team finished this season. They'll be disappointed after making it to a prelim last year. Once again, similar to their men's team. But it is what it is. I think they'll learn a lot from this year. And they'll be going out this weekend to play the showdown against Adelaide with a lot riding on it and a lot of hope that they can potentially really throw a spanner in Adelaide's season, who all of a sudden are looking like maybe they might miss finals, losing 2 of their last 3 games. Big couple of weeks for Adelaide. And they're going up against Port Adelaide this week. Game number 2 of the weekend was also on Friday night. It was West Coast Geelong, and West Coast not set themselves into finals just yet, but have almost got there. They need one more win, would be just about enough to guarantee finals football for the Eagles. They did it well, 7-8-50, once again kicked straighter than Geelong, 2-7-19. Straighter team, won the game. Good performance. Team rating suggests they were better than Geelong, and I think that's a fair conclusion. They kicked the first and only goal of the first quarter. They were up by 14 points at 3/4 time, even though a late goal on the siren by Zali Friswell did get it back to 14 points. It was Geelong's first goal of the game. And then 3rd quarter was a domination by the Eagles. They kicked 3 goals straight to 0-2. And by that point, she's all over. Really, 42-12 at 3/4 time would take a a pretty big miracle from Geelong, who just have been just off the pace again for the second year in a row. Eagles just maybe too strong here. Across the board, the stats wise, Geelong actually had 5 extra inside 50s. Clearances were +2 for the Eagles. Uncontested and contested football slightly Eagles' favour. I think the Eagles are really showing some great development. They showed some really big steps last year. They've shown even more steps again this year. So they're really rising at a good rate from being one of, if not the worst teams in the competition 2 years ago. They're certainly playing some good football now. I mean, they've got a lot of good young talent, so that certainly helps. But obviously, Daisy Pearce as coach is also very beneficial for them. BNF votes were gone Ella Roberts 3, Nina Morrison 2, and Isabella Lewis with the 1. Key players, Lucia Painter kicked 3 goals, having a great season, great first season. Other than that, I don't think there's anything too special. West Coast just too strong. Puts them 6th on the ladder. They play Sydney this week. A win would guarantee them finals. A loss makes it a little bit prickly going into that final round. Obviously, they might still be right, but 2 tough games to finish. Sydney into Carlton. It's not going to be easy, but 1 win might be enough for them. 2 would certainly be enough. Yeah, all to play for the Eagles. They've set themselves up 6-4. 2 losses and missing the finals would be an absolute disaster for them. It is possible. It would be heartbreaking for them because at the moment you'd absolutely say they deserve to be a finals team based on what we've seen this year. Geelong, their season's done, 4-6. Similar story to Port Adelaide. Same sort of percentage. They play the Bulldogs this week. It's a winnable game. But they would need an absolute miracle to be playing finals. With a lot of those teams in that range above them all playing each other, like West Coast Sydney, West Coast Carlton. It's just not going to happen, I don't think. So it is what it is. Obviously, Bulldogs are actually above them on the ladder thanks to a very healthy percentage. But yeah, Geelong, their season's done. They're 13th on the ladder. They'll be a bit disappointed. It's a similar story to last year. Tough run where they just couldn't get some wins against some good opposition, and in the end they just lost too many games of football to really consider themselves a genuine chance at finals, really, is basically the long and the short of it. They haven't had an easy run of opposition, but at the end of the day, you can only play who you play, and sometimes it'll work for you, sometimes it won't. Next up, we have Saturday football, and it was Melbourne-Sydney, and Sydney coming off a good win the week before, could not back it up down at Casey Fields as Melbourne put on a clinic and showed that maybe they are the genuine number 2 seed in the AFLW season this year behind the Kangaroos. Sydney got off to a good start, kicked the first 2, but after that it was kind of pretty much a domination from Melbourne. Sydney kicked their 3rd goal of the match, which was 17 minutes into the first quarter. They did not kick another goal after that point, whereas Melbourne kicked a lot. So you take out those first 2 goals to Sydney, and the rest of the game, it went 9 goals 11 to 1 goal 3. So it was a bit of a domination after the 15-minute mark of that first quarter especially. Just really, really good performance from Melbourne. The last quarter, there was no goals kicked. A lot of the damage was done early in that second quarter. I think Melbourne kicked 4 goals in the first 15, 10, maybe 10 minutes, 11 minutes of the second quarter. So they put them away. Team rating says all you need to know. An absolute domination by Melbourne on the stat sheet as well as the scoreboard, which they'll be very, very happy with. They're really building towards a good final series. And I know it's a big ask to beat North Melbourne, but if North Melbourne have an off day and Melbourne show up, I wouldn't really completely write Melbourne off. I think they've got a lot of talent on this list. Plus 27 inside 50s for the Melbourne Demons in this one, plus 48 disposals. They are putting up really good numbers. Plus 16 clearances, They dominated uncontested football by almost 40 and contested football by 28. So they just did everything right, and Sydney just had no answers for the Demons in this one. So that's how it shaped up, and that's how it finished. Eden Zanker, we've gone with 3 votes, Kate Hoare 2, and Laura Gardner with 1. The way we've gone with votes, Eden Zanker kicked only multiple goal scorer in the game. Eden kicked 4 goals, so good performance there. Yeah, Sydney just too good. Melbourne too good. 44-point winners. That puts them second on the ladder thanks to the Hawthorn loss and them winning. Massive, massive game this weekend. Melbourne, Brisbane. Pretty much playing for second spot almost, you'd think, depending on what happens with Hawthorn over the last 2 weeks. But the winner puts themselves in a really good spot to finish second and get that home qualifying final and potentially avoid North Melbourne through till the grand final. The thing is, I think they're the genuine 2 teams that are most likely to be a challenge to North Melbourne are your Melbourne and your Brisbane. Brisbane are a team that have shown it over the last couple of years that they are a class team. So that's why I have these 2 teams as the most likely. I don't see either of them being able to get to North Melbourne on a good North Melbourne day, but maybe on a bad day they can. So Melbourne almost certainly going to be top 4. They would have to lose both games and quite healthily lose them to probably drop out of the top 4, depending on other results. But yeah, similar story to Hawthorn. They win this week against Brisbane. They do guarantee top 4. Meanwhile, Sydney, they're 9th on the ladder. They're 1 game outside the 8. They need to win games. They've got 2 left, obviously. They play West Coast this week. They win that, and they give themselves a chance when they play the Bombers in the final round to get into finals. If they win them both, you'd have to say potentially will be playing finals because just depending on other results, obviously. But with what other teams are playing, it's definitely a chance to play finals if they win them both. Big game this week against the Eagles. It won't be easy for them. On to the next one. We have North Melbourne, Adelaide, billed as one of the teams that maybe could have potentially challenged the Kangaroos at some point. Just wasn't to be. Kangaroos blew them away early. They kicked 5 goals to none in that first quarter. It was 31-0. And up until the 17-minute mark, basically, of the second quarter, Adelaide hadn't scored when they got a rushed behind late in that second quarter. Kangaroos, after quarter time, didn't do a heap. Over the next 2 quarters, they'd only kicked 3 goals, 7 across the second and third quarters. But they were doing enough. And then, yeah, they did enough in the end. Adelaide did a bit of work in the last quarter, kicking 4 of their 5 goals, but they lose by 40 points. Kangaroos just are untouchable as it stands at the moment. Ash Riddell and Jazz Garner are just absolutely taking the piss. Week in, week out, just racking up disposals, kicking goals. Nobody can stop them. It's pretty much pretty simple. No one can touch them. No one can stop them. And then you chuck in all the other players. Like, it doesn't even matter if the rest of the team shows up or not, but they are all playing some really good football. So it is an absolute domination. In this game, they had 115 or 106, 115 disposals more than Adelaide, sorry. The Kangaroos just dominated every facet of this game. 21 extra inside 50s. Adelaide just didn't have answers. 10 extra clearances for the Roos. Uncontested football was massive. 101 extra uncontested possessions for the Kangaroos. They looked after the footy. They moved the ball well. They set themselves up really well. And opposition, week in, week out, just don't have answers to get the ball through this Kangaroos setup. They're well trained. They're well coached. They are very talented, and they just do things right. Jazz Garner, 41 touches and a goal. Ash Riddell, 39 touches and a goal. You just can't stop them. You just can't stop them. Other than that, that's basically all you'd probably need to know about this game. Kangaroos just miles ahead in Adelaide's season on the line. Kangaroos have all but sealed the minor premiership now with 2 games to go. They would have to lose both games and Melbourne win both. For that to not be the case, they're 10-0. They haven't lost for who knows how long. So they will eventually lose a game. The streak will end. It's hard to see it happening this season, the way things are going. They've played most of the other top teams in the league and not had too many issues, so it's hard to see it being the case over the next 2 weeks. But St Kilda next week, who are obviously 5th on the ladder right now, and a big important game for them. And then I think they finish with Hawthorn. So an interesting couple of weeks going into finals for them, but I can't genuinely see a team challenging them. Meanwhile, Adelaide's season is on the line. They've lost 2 of their last 3, 6-4. They need to win at least one of these 2 games to be finals. If they lose them both, they will miss finals. I think that's safe to say. They've got Port Adelaide this week, so that won't be easy for them. And then they finish the season with the last game of the home and away season against Fremantle at home. So that won't be an easy game. And depending on what happens with Fremantle this week, Fremantle could be playing for that spot. If Fremantle beat Richmond and Adelaide lose to Port this week, who knows? Crazy things can happen. Yeah, that's pretty much the long and the short of that one. I think interesting couple weeks for the Crows. They beat Port Adelaide this week, and they all but confirm that they will be playing finals. So that's what they will be looking for this week. Next up, we head to more Saturday afternoon football. It was the Giants and the Dockers, and the Giants gave the Dockers a bit of a scare here. It was a home game for the Giants. They played some good football, did the Giants. They're showing that they're not that bad. They've been pretty competitive against a lot of teams this year, the Giants. I think they're getting better and better. They're just not quite there yet to go full 4 quarters with teams. In this one, they kicked 3 goals to 1 goal 7, 3-3 to 1-7 at half time. And maybe they were getting lucky with some poor efforts in front of goal by the Dockers, but at the end of the day, making use of your opportunities is a very important part of football. So at halftime, it was looking okay. The Dockers got one early in the third, and it was going goal for many parts of the last quarter. Fremantle were up by, 1 point for a big chunk of the last quarter. They did manage a goal with about 4 or 5 minutes to go, and then the Giants just couldn't get one back. They would have needed 1 goal, 1 at least, but that is what it is. Fremantle too strong in the end. The rating tells you that it was a very close game, 56-54. Obviously, home game for the Giants makes it probably closer, but Fremantle should have probably made better use of their opportunities. 6 goals, 11. They had extra 18 inside 50s in this game. 14 extra clearances. They had a lot more contested football, whereas Giants had control of the uncontested game. In the end, Giants put up a good fight. I was impressed with their game, but it wasn't enough to take down Fremantle, who just holding on to finals hopes. Their percentage is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. 72.3%. Which is there's only 5 teams in the competition with a worse percentage, and it's 30% off teams in the 8 right now. So they would need a lot of luck. They'd need to win both games, get results to go their way, but they are holding on to that hope of a finals. Best and fairest votes for this one, we went Gabriella Newton with 3, Kiara Bowers with 2. Always in the votes is Bowers. And Emily Pease is having a really, really good season for the Giants, gets the 1 vote. Shout out to the Giants, Cambridge McCormick, who once again was their highest rated player. Second highest rated key defender in the competition so far this season, having a fantastic year down back for the Giants. Going forward, Giants, they're 15th on the ladder, 2 wins, 8 losses. Their percentage is okay, only just ahead of Richmond. So depending what happens over these last 2 weeks, they're probably going to finish somewhere from 14 down to probably 17, potentially, depending on other results and whatnot. I don't know where exactly they finish. They're probably not too fussed in that zone, to be honest. They play Carlton this week, so that's not going to be easy. And then they finish with Port Adelaide at home, so potentially a win there. We'll see. But they've been okay this year. 3 wins for the year would be quite good. I think they'd be reasonably happy with that. Obviously, 4 losses in a row at the moment. If they lost their last 2, finished with 6 in a row, wouldn't be ideal, but they've shown some solid signs throughout the year. The Dockers, as we said, that 10th on the ladder right now, their percentage is quite terrible. But they win both their last 2 games. Maybe, just maybe, finals is still an opportunity for them in season 2025. They will need some luck, though. Next up, we go to Icon Park, and it was Saturday night football. It was Carlton Blues, St Kilda Saints in what was a huge matchup. The winner of this really gives themselves a very good chance of playing finals. The loser of this was right back in the thick of it, and the Saints did the job. They just keep winning games of football. They haven't lost for a while now. It's like 6 wins in a row, I think, for them. They win this one 7-7, 49, 5-6, 36. Just too strong in the end, winning by 13 points. The Blues keep the first. It was tight-ish throughout most of the second quarter. St Kilda did get out by 11 points late in that second quarter to have a little bit of a lead at half-time. Throughout most of the second half, it stayed around about that margin. There was a point early in the third quarter where Carlton kicked back-to-back goals, and you thought maybe it was game on, but St Kilda then kicked 3, the next 3 of the game, and put it out of range. They don't win comfortably, but they win by 13 points, which was enough. Team ratings suggests that Saints were slightly better than Carlton as well, but once again, very close rating system. Ratings in the system this week. The stats tell you that Carlton had plenty of the football, plenty of inside 50s, plus 12, plus 9 clearances. They did a lot of things right, Carlton. One of the things, though, that St Kilda did really well and have done really well over the last couple of weeks is defending, and just being positioned well and not losing one-on-ones, getting extra players to the ball, reading the play very well. It's what St Kilda have been doing very, very good over the last couple of weeks, and they did it again here. And I think that was the key reason they walk away with the 4 points in this game, was that defensive setup, that defensive ability to concede a fair few inside 50s, but always be positioned to not give up an easy shot from that. You look at that compared to some teams that are lower ranked, that are perhaps just not quite positioning correctly, and that's costing them the opposition taking marks inside their forward 50, whereas St Kilda are just not giving that up. So I think that is a huge thing that St Kilda are doing very, very well at the moment. So keep an eye on that over the next couple of weeks, and we'll see if that continues. BNF votes, we go on Georgia Patricios for 3, Madeline Gurin with 2, and Tiana Smith with 1. Going forward, St Kilda, the 5th on the ladder, 1 win from sealing a finals spot. Top 4 is still a chance, but it's not going to be easy. They play North Melbourne this week, which will not be an easy game for them. And then they finish with the Bulldogs in the final round, which won't be a walk in the park either. So they potentially need to win at least one of them to guarantee finals. Their percentage isn't great, so 2 losses would likely see a Sydney, if Sydney won both games, jump them. Not saying that will happen, but they'll want to win one of their 2 games, and they won't want to lose by too much to North Melbourne this week. Is crucial for them. Carlton, finals is still well and truly on the cards. They've lost 2 in a row, which is not ideal heading towards finals, but they're 6-4. They play the Giants this week. they win that, they all but guarantee finals football. They would obviously not be officially locked in, depending on what happens with Sydney this week, and hypothetically Fremantle, but that's a stretch. So you'd say possibly a win would be good enough. They finish with West Coast, so they'll definitely want to be beating GWS to give themselves the best opportunity, no matter what the result of that final game is, because that won't be an easy game against West Coast. If both teams were to lose this week, that would be a game loser misses finals potentially. So, yeah, big couple weeks for the Blue Baggers. We'll move into Sunday football. We kick off down at Windy Hill. It was the Bombers and it was Brisbane, and the Lions got the job done, even though they kicked very poorly in front of goal. 7-12, 54 to 2-4, 16. First quarter, Bombers were actually in front at quarter time, 14 to 11. But after that, it was one-way traffic. Bombers managed just 2 behinds after quarter time. Meanwhile, the Lions kicked 6 goals, 7-43. So basically 7 goals better after quarter time than the Bombers. And the rating system tells you they were the better team. Quite comfortably in the end. The Lions, as we would expect to see from what we've seen from both of these teams over recent weeks. Brisbane playing some very good football. They're on a bit of a win streak now. It's been a while since they last lost. And on the other side of the fence, it's been a long time since the Bombers last won a game. I think, did they win their first 3, or they won 3 of 4? And then they've lost everything since then. So it's been a rough run for the Bombers, and that kind of continues here. Team stat-wise, plus 24 inside 50s, plus 1 clearance for the Lions. Slightly better in contested football, way better in uncontested football. And the big one, the turnover game, was plus 14. Bombers had 14 extra turnovers than the Lions. So you're just not going to win too many games of football when you're giving up that much football to the opposition. It's just not good enough ball use in the end. Another interesting stat in this game, tackles inside 50, 17 for the Lions, 0 for the Bombers. I know the ball was obviously in the Lions forward 50 a lot more than the Bombers forward 50, but just shows you just that difference right there. 3 votes, Ali Anderson, another great game. Charlotte Mullins, maybe one of her better games, gets 2, and Georgia Nanscowen gets the 1 vote. Anything else worth talking about in this game? Not particularly, I don't think. Just a matter of where that sits. Both teams, Bombers, the 14th on the ladder, dropping fast. Hypothetically, could end up as low as 17. Probably not going to happen. But 14th is basically the best they can finish. I would expect one of GWS, Richmond, or Collingwood to win one of their last 2 games. So potentially probably drop a spot, but we'll see how that plays out. It doesn't really matter in the end. It's just draft picks, isn't it? On the other side of the fence, Brisbane, they're sitting 4th on the ladder. They play Melbourne this week. A win in that one would guarantee them a top 4 spot, really, and potentially set themselves a big chance for a crack at maybe top 2, depending on what else happens with Hawthorn and Melbourne. But a really, really good opportunity for them over the final couple weeks here. Their final game is against Collingwood as well, who are 17th on the ladder. So that looks like a win. So yeah, if they were to win this week as well against Melbourne, that would be massive. You definitely think they're a top 4 team based on what we've seen this year. Next up, Collingwood hosted Richmond at Victoria Park on Sunday, and Richmond kicked away reasonably early, late-ish in the first quarter, and that was all they needed. Collingwood kicked the first goal 40 seconds in, and then less than 20 seconds after the play resumed, Richmond kicked their first, and it was like, what is this game of football? Richmond then got a couple late ones in that quarter, including Ellie McKenzie kicking a snap that just bent around nicely on the siren to give them a 26-7 lead at quarter time. Collingwood made a run at times. Half time it was 28-14. 3/4 time it was still 34-21. So still a chance. Collingwood kicked the first of the last, and you thought maybe Katie Brennan kicked her third just to extend it again. Then Morris Dalton kicked one, and then right late on the game, Caitlin Grazier kicked one just to seal it, but Collingwood just couldn't quite make the inroads into this one. Team ratings suggest it was a very close game, and I think that's a fair enough adjudication of the game. Richmond probably slightly ahead. The scoreboard says that, but also maybe on stats. Low inside 50 game, 35-24 in favour of Richmond. They dominated clearances 29-17, did the Tigers. They had more contested football. Collingwood did have more uncontested. Richmond did have more turnovers, +3 than Collingwood in this game. But in the end, Richmond did what they needed to. Collingwood maybe wasted a couple opportunities, but they really struggled to get the ball inside 50, especially early on in this game. Best and fairest votes, Ellie McKenzie 3, Brittany Benici 2, and Mon Conti with the 1. As we said, Brennan kicked 3, Caitlin Grazier kicked 2. Other than that, nothing too exciting on the stat sheet. Both teams are 16th and 17th. They did swap positions. With this win to the Tigers, they go up to 16. Collingwood dropped down to 17. Collingwood played bottom of the ladder Gold Coast this week up in Queensland, so that's potentially an opportunity for Collingwood to jump back ahead of Richmond and maybe GWS. And if they won by enough, maybe even the Bombers. Is that what they want? Who knows? But that is what's on the cards for them this week. Then they finish with Brisbane, which is a very unlikely game for them to win. The Tigers play Fremantle this week. It's not going to be easy, but Richmond are certainly playing some okay football. They've won, 2 of 3 games, and the other game in the middle wasn't too bad against the Roos, so they're certainly playing some okay football. I feel like that's been the case for most of the year. They just had some games where they just couldn't score, and that was the long and the short of it. They then finish with bottom of the ladder Gold Coast, so that could hypothetically be a win to finish, or you never know, maybe Gold Coast win their last 2 games. We'll see. But that's how the rest of the season will shape up for both of these teams that are both towards the bottom of the ladder. Next up, final game of the round was Gold Coast Bulldogs. Gold Coast didn't kick a goal. 0-6. 6 to 10-12, 72. The Bulldogs, their percentage continues to rise. They'll be a bit disappointed with their start to the season because their end to the year has been very, very good. Started slow. It was just 10-1 at quarter time, 24-1 at half time, 56-3 3/4 time, and ends up 72-6. The Doggies just too good. It's what they did a lot last year. Win games, but win them comfortably. They have this knack for just blowing teams apart. But they still feel like they're lengths behind the top teams. So make of that what you will. Maybe they're similar to their men's team. Who knows? No surprise, team rating massive advantage to the Dogs there, +21, +15 inside 50s, +2 clearances. Just good across the ground, really. Dominated contested football. Looked after the football, +6 intercepts in favour of the Bulldogs, so really good performance. BNF votes, Fitzgerald from the Doggies 3, Ellie Blackburn 2, and Isabel Pritchard with 1 vote. The Doggies, their season not technically done yet. Their percentage gives them the chance, but they would need to win both games and get a lot of luck. They play Geelong this week. It's a chance. They obviously would need at least one of West Coast, Adelaide or Carlton to lose both games. They would need to win both games themselves, and Sydney or Fremantle to have a maximum of 1 win. So they need a fair bit of things to go their way. It's not out of the realms of possibility, but it's not going to be easy for them. So we'll see how that shapes up. But that's where they're at. Meanwhile, Gold Coast, they're 18th on the ladder. they've got two technically winnable games because they play 16th and 17th on the ladder over the last 2 weeks. Collingwood this week, Richmond the week after. They would have to win both of those games to move up on the ladder because their percentage is just so low. By far the most points against in the competition. Across 10 weeks, they've had a total of almost 200 points more against them than any other team in the competition. Next worst is GWS. So that equates to 20 points more per game that they're conceding than any other team in the competition, which is just crazy. You chuck in that their offense is only scoring the second most amount of points in the second least amount of points in the competition. Yeah, that makes sense. Collingwood, the only team that scored less than them this year. So it's just a recipe for that they're a long way off the pace. Hypothetically, they could win both games going home, but also they could lose both of those, and that would be a damning end to their season. That probably started with a little bit more hope than that, but make of it what you will. We'll now jump into how my tips went on the weekend. So we kicked off with getting the first one wrong. Never ideal. We said Hawthorn by 7 points, and it was Port Adelaide by 35. So we're a little bit off on that. We'll cop it. West Coast won by 31. We said 5 points, so we'll take it. Melbourne were better than we expected. They won by 44, but we get the tick. Kangaroos won by 40. We didn't expect them to win by that much, but they were, once again, just way too good. Fremantle won by 7, so we're a little bit off again on that margin. We got our second one wrong when we said Carlton. St Kilda won by 13. Then Brisbane won by 38, so we were almost smack bang on there. 2 points off on our margin. Richmond by 13, we said 10, so once again, very close there. And then the Bulldogs were just way too strong. They won by 26. We got 7 out of 9, which wasn't too bad for the results that happened this weekend. 65 out of 90 for the season. Let's jump into the leaderboards of the awards before we jump into our round 11 preview. B and F, so this is basically the women's Brownlow as we see it, 3-2-1 in each game. Ash Riddell is the walkaway winner. As it stands, she can't be passed on our voting system. 26 votes in 10 games, getting 2.6 of votes per game is redonkulous. She is insane. Ella Roberts, 19 votes. Ali Anderson, Kate Hoare and Jasmine Garner on 17. Isabel Pritchard on 16. Kiara Bowers on 15. Then Ebony Marinoff. Last year's winner, Georgie Prasparkas and Emily Pease all on 14. 13 for Georgia Nanscowen and Laura Gardner. Our MVP, so this is the top 5 rated players for each team getting votes, is a lot tighter of a race. Ash Riddell leads the race in this one as well on 74. 2 votes ahead of Jasmine Garner, 72. Ella Roberts on 70. Lucy Wales on 63. Ebony Marinoff, 61. Worth noting, Lucy Wales, I don't think is going to be playing another game, certainly in the home and away season, but maybe not at all this year, depending on how her recovery goes. So Ali Anderson, 59. Georgie Prasparkas on 55 with Kate Hoare. 53, Laura Gardner from Sydney. 51 for Kiara Bowers. 50 for Georgia Nanscowen. Mimstrom, 49. Monconti, Tiana Smith, and Isabel Pritchard on 45. So technically, maximum votes you can get for the remainder of the home and away season is 20. So technically, everyone from Kate Hoare and above technically has a chance at winning this. You would say probably it's a 3-person race. Ash Riddell, Jasmine Garner, and Ella Roberts with 2 games to go. My money's on Jasmine Garner to win that one. Rising Star, we give 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to all eligible Rising Star nominees each week based on the highest rating. So highest rated player each week gets 5, down to 1 for the 5th highest rated. I think that made sense how I explained it. Zibby Fish leads the way. No surprise there. She absolutely deserves it. Absolutely 100% will be the unanimous winner of the Rising Star in the AFLW this year there is no chance that anybody else gets above her in anyone's voting. And if she does, those people should not be on the voting committee. Zippy Fish has been insane. Take nothing away from the rest of them, but Zippy Fish has been absolutely outstanding. Number 2 rated general defender in the competition so far this year. Absolutely fantastic. So 33 votes for Zippy, 14 for Havana Harris, who started the year really well. Perhaps dropped off a little bit, but her team is not playing great football and she's a key forward, so it hasn't been easy for her. Lucia Painter and Laura Stone both on 11. Jessica Wrench on 10. Ash Centra, Poppy Schultz, and Riley Watherspoon all on 9 votes. And then Sophie McKay and Holly Ridewood with 5 votes each, bringing out the rest of that list. Obviously, there's lots of 4, 3, 2s, and 1s as well, but we won't go through all of them. That's how our Rising Star votes go so far this year. We'll jump now into our round 11 preview and look at all the games coming up this weekend. So we kick off with Friday night football over in Adelaide, and it is the showdown. Adelaide hosting the Power at Norwood Oval on a Friday night. Should be a cracker. Adelaide obviously playing for their finals chances. Don't want to drop this one. Port Adelaide playing to try and win a showdown. I don't think they've won one yet, have they? My numbers say no. And I think that's accurate. They went pretty close last year. They only lost by 14 points. It was a pretty good performance. They did probably have a better season last year. Well, they definitely had a better season last year than they're having this year. So, an opportunity for them to win one. Maybe steal it. Maybe ruin Adelaide's season. Get their first showdown win would be huge. They just haven't put together enough wins throughout this season to genuinely have a good chance at finals at this point. It's not hopeless, but it's pretty much hopeless. Whereas Adelaide, they need to win at least one of these 2 games that they've got remaining. So that will kick us off on Friday night. I would say probably Adelaide. Will do my tips at the end of the 9 matches, but you'd have to think Adelaide should win. But I would not be surprised to see Port Adelaide cause a little bit of an upset on Friday night. Saturday, we kick off with another big, important game. It's Sydney West Coast. Sydney lose this, you can probably put a fork in their season, potentially, at 5-5. They maybe need to win both games to have a real shot at it, depending on some other results. Meanwhile, West Coast are 1 win from guaranteeing finals, basically, for themselves. So, all to play for in this one. They've only met twice, and Sydney have won them both, including last year. They met towards the end of the year, round 10. Sydney won it by 46 points that day. So, a lot of things say Sydney win this. It's at home for Sydney. They'll be starting favourites. Their form, not fantastic, though. They've only won 1 out of, 6 games? 1 out of 6 from their last... After starting the season really well, they've really struggled. Some of the results are okay. Like, a 2-point loss to Adelaide is fine. But 7-point loss to GWS, a 30-point loss to Collingwood reads really bad. Chuck in 44-point loss to Melbourne last week and a 68-point loss to Kangaroos 3 weeks ago. They've had some bad results, and it's just starting to stack up. They'll start favourites here, but West Coast, I think, are good enough to win this. West Coast have played some really good football. Granted, they haven't beaten much over the last 5 weeks. Their 2 losses were Adelaide and Melbourne. Their 3 wins were Collingwood, GWS, and last week against Geelong. I think West Coast best is good enough to be competitive here. Unfortunately, they will need to bring their best if they're to win this game, I think. Because I think Sydney are genuinely a very, very good football team, just for whatever reason. They haven't been able to put it together over that last 6 weeks often enough. They'll be kicking themselves for that Collingwood and GWS losses. Those 2 losses could be what is the difference between them playing finals and not. They had won those 2. Right now, they'd be 7-3. They'd be sitting hypothetically somewhere up around about probably 5th on the ladder, ahead of St Kilda, or around about St Kilda, and they would only need one win to guarantee finals, and still hypothetically play finals, even losing both. So they'll be kicking themselves for those 2 losses, but that's part of football. So that is what it is. Interesting game on Saturday, though. That will be one to tune into. There are some very important games this week, and that is certainly one of the biggest. Essendon Hawthorn is your next game at Windy Hill. No surprise, Hawthorn will be massive favourites heading into this one. Coming off a loss last week, the Hawks, but before that, their form was really, really good. Bombers haven't won since about round 4, I think, so it's been a long time between wins for them, and this is not going to be an easy one. Hawthorn will be pretty fired up to come back and win this one. I don't think they'll absolutely destroy them, but I think they'll be too strong. I don't think Hawthorn have ever beat Essendon either, which is just another interesting fact. They've only played twice. The Bombers won by 26 points the first time, 19 points last time, which was in 2023. This, you'd imagine, should be the first time Hawthorn do beat the Bombers, though. On paper, it looks one-way traffic. Next up, we head across to Fremantle Oval for Fremantle v Richmond, who have put together a little bit of form recently. I don't know if they'll be good enough to beat the Dockers here. The Dockers not playing fantastic football, but should be too strong here. Last time they met was 2023. Fremantle won it by 7 points. The time before, Fremantle won by 30 points. Both of them were Richmond home games. This one, of course, is a Fremantle home game. I think Fremantle are the better team overall on paper. They're not bringing their best, but I think they should be too strong in this game. I'd be very surprised to see Richmond win again. Not that I don't think Richmond are capable of winning games like this. I just think I had high hopes of Fremantle at the start of the season. They have kind of let me down a fair bit. They still technically have a shot at finals. A very outside shot at finals, but it is a shot at finals. So I think they just got too much to play for, and they should win this one. Then, game of the round, without a doubt, on Saturday night, up in Brisbane. 4th v 2nd on the ladder. Probably the 2 biggest challenges, at least in my mind, for North Melbourne this year, in terms of trying to get in the way of North Melbourne winning a premiership, are Brisbane and Melbourne. They'll go head-to-head at Brighton Homes Arena. This will be a must-watch game of football. Hopefully, it lives up to the hype, because both of these teams can play some absolutely fantastic football. Brisbane perhaps haven't really been challenged by anyone recently. Like, their last 5 games have been Bulldogs, Richmond, Gold Coast, Port Adelaide, Essendon. All 5 of them are bottom 10 teams, so maybe they haven't had a real tough challenge lately. But they are winning. They are a very, very good team. They've played in the last couple grand finals, winning obviously in 2023, losing last year. They're mature. They know what they're doing. Relatively fit across the board. Most things point towards Brisbane really giving this season a shake towards the end. They're obviously coming from a long way behind a team like North Melbourne, but they're certainly in that conversation as the second best potential team in the competition. And this would be a big statement if they could beat the Demons in this one. Melbourne, on the other side of the fence, obviously lost 2 weeks ago against Fremantle, but you take that one out, they've been really good. They beat Sydney, absolutely smashed Sydney last week. They beat Essendon in there. They beat Gold Coast by 87 points. They beat West Coast by 50 points. West Coast are a good team in the top 8. So Melbourne playing some really good football. Last 3 times these 2 teams have met. Last year, they met in week 2. Brisbane won that one by 18 points. Melbourne had a rough start to the year last year, though. Brisbane won by 25 points in 2023. Obviously, Brisbane went on to win that premiership that year. And 2022, Melbourne won by 4 points. So both these teams have had quite a bit of success over the AFLW span so far. And they're both very competitive teams, and I would expect this to be an absolute cracker. I hope it lives up to it because it could actually be game of the season. On paper, it just about reads as game of the season. Whether that's what we get on Saturday night or not, probably not, but I'm hopeful. It should be a good game. So check that one out. Saturday night, Brighton Homes Arena. Switch on your tellies because it could be a good one. Sunday football, we got 4 games this week on Sunday, and we start with the traditional Bulldog, the rivalry, Cats v Dogs, Dogs v Cats, in the world, AFLW world, maybe not as big rivals, but the Western Bulldogs, Geelong, it'll be at Ballarat Mars Stadium, 11th v 13th on the ladder. Slim hope for the Dogs to play finals, not genuine chance. They would need a lot of things to go their way. This will be a cracking game, though. I think it shapes up as a good game. The Bulldogs obviously in good form at the moment. Smashed Gold Coast and the Bombers the last 2 weeks. 4 weeks ago they smashed Collingwood. Their 2 losses in that run of 5 weeks have been to Port Adelaide, who aren't a bad team, and Brisbane, who are obviously one of the top few teams in the competition. Their form reads really well. Their slow start to the year might be hurtful, but obviously I just don't think they're quite at the top 8 level just yet, but they're not far from it. Last time these 2 teams met was 2023. Geelong absolutely smacked them by 48 points. They also won by 1 point in Season 7. Bulldogs last one in Season 6 by 12 points. Geelong's form, it's just too hit and miss this year. It's been pretty much the story of their year. Both these teams are 4 and 6. Done it different ways. Geelong showed some signs early that they could be a potential finals team, but when that chance kind of arose, they've just let it slip. They've lost 3 of their last 4. All 3 of those against teams that are currently in the top 8. So they were against decent opposition, Hawthorn, Carlton, West Coast. But they're all games that if they genuinely wanted to be playing finals, they needed to win at least 2 of those probably. If they're 6 and 4 right now, it's game on for finals. Unfortunately for them, they're 4 and 6, and you can pretty much kiss finals goodbye for another year, because last year they were genuinely a team that's probably capable of playing finals for 2 years in a row, but just haven't won enough games, and that's the difference here. But this should be a competitive game. Both teams I see at pretty similar level, just off that top 8 pace at the moment, so it could be an enthralling match. Next up, we head down south. We head down Hobart, the most southern game of the season. It's North Melbourne, St Kilda. Kangaroos' last ever game in Tassie. Last ever home game, that is. North Hobart Oval. And it's hard to see a world where they lose this one. St Kilda are playing very good. I think they've won 6 in a row. Unfortunately, for St Kilda's sake, North Melbourne have won 22 or 23 in a row or something ridiculous. So it's just a different league that Kangaroos are in. Obviously, I think they've only played twice, and Kangaroos won them both. Last year, 2023, Kangaroos won by 40 points, and in 2021, Kangaroos won by 26 points. It's hard to see St Kilda being genuinely competitive in this. Yeah, they've won 6 in a row. Only one of them is against a finals competitive team, which is Carlton. The rest have been against lower ranked teams. This would be an absolute step up. It would be unbelievable if they won this game, St Kilda. Eventually, the Kangaroos are going to lose a game of football. I don't see it being this week, though. Next up, it's Icon Park, and it's going to be Carlton GWS. Carlton really need this win after back-to-back losses. They need to win this. They need to win this to keep their finals going. If they lose this, then it puts a lot of pressure on their final game. Interestingly enough, last time these 2 teams met was 2023. GWS won it by 2 points. In 2022, they met twice. Obviously, there was 2 seasons in 2022. GWS won the second one by 17. The other game was won by Carlton by 18. So the last two have gone the way of the Giants. It's hard to see this one happening the same, although the Giants are playing some pretty solid football without winning games of football. Like, 7-point loss to Fremantle last week's pretty solid. 27 to Geelong's not fantastic, but it's not terrible. 14-point loss to St Kilda's pretty solid. West Coast 42-point loss was not great, but they beat Sydney by 7 points. But Carlton, they're a team that should be playing finals. Whether they do or not, we'll see, I guess. They were top 4 2 weeks ago, before these two losses. Against good team, good oppositions, but they need to be winning games against GWS is basically the long and the short of it. The stats say they should win it. Most things say they should win it. I say write GWS off in this game at your peril, but Carlton should win. Final game of round 10 is up in Queensland. It's at Bond University. So just another different home ground for Gold Coast. Gold Coast Collingwood. What is it? 17th versus 18th on the ladder. Bottom two teams. And historically, Collingwood have never beat Gold Coast. Oh no, yes they have. They beat them last year by 3 points. I completely made that up. 2 years ago, Collingwood lost by 12 points. And then last year, Collingwood won in a scrappy affair that went right down to the wire by 3 points. Collingwood won that one. So it's only 2 times they've met. It seems so far this year that Gold Coast are a mile behind every other team. We'll find out, I guess, a fair bit about this here. Collingwood haven't won a game in 5. Gold Coast have won just the 1 game this season. It's a lot of red when you're looking at the form sheets for both teams. I think the ability of Collingwood to stop opposition scoring is a lot better than Gold Coast. The problem is Collingwood have not been able to score very well over recent weeks. They did end up getting to 5 goals last week, but that was the first time in 5 weeks that they'd scored more than 3 goals. And 3 weeks in a row they kicked 1 goal, 2 goal, 1 goal. So they're really struggling to put much offense on the board, which has been a concern for them over the recent weeks. But if they are going to score a winning score against anyone, it would be against Gold Coast, because Gold Coast have really struggled to stop opposition scoring all season, but especially recent weeks. Last week they conceded 72, the week before 60, the week before 83, the week before 93, and the week before 50. So that's a lot of scoring against. You compare that to Collingwood, who are second bottom of the ladder. Every single week, Gold Coast has conceded more than 50 over the last 5. In the last 5 weeks, Collingwood have only conceded more than 50 twice, which was West Coast and the Bulldogs, both getting 62 and 65. So that's the difference, I think, that hypothetically we'll see in this game. I don't think it will be a high-scoring game, but I just think that Gold Coast's inability to stop opposition from scoring might be a concern for them in this one. So I'll be going Collingwood, but it's 17th versus 18th. We've probably spent too much time on this game as it is. So that's all the games this weekend. Our tips are on your screen now if you're watching this video. If you're listening, we will read through them. Adelaide by 14 points over Port Adelaide in the showdown. Not confident in this one, but we've got to go with what I think is the better team, even though Adelaide sometimes let me down in that thought. Sydney by 9 points over the Eagles. I think that will be a cracking game, so check that one out. Hawthorn by 26 over the Bombers. The Bombers just not showing enough over recent weeks. Fremantle and the Tigers. We're going the Dockers by 15 points. Dockers just have too much to play for, I think. Brisbane against Melbourne. We'll go Lions by 6 because it's in Brisbane. Even in Melbourne, I might consider it going Brisbane. I think they're genuinely 2 very good teams. When Melbourne get rolling, they're impossible to stop. So that's probably what Brisbane need to make sure they don't allow, especially early in this game, is Melbourne just to get some momentum, because they won't be able to stop them if they do. We're going by the Dogs over the Cats by 10 points, just based on similar sort of story. The Bulldogs' ability to kick scores recently has been very, very good. So we're sticking with them and a little bit of momentum towards the end of the year for the Doggies. Kangaroos, it's impossible to tip against them. We're going by 45 points over the Saints. Blues, Giants. Blues should be too strong. 22-point winners. We've got them by at Icon Park. And then wrapping it up, 17th versus 18th. We're going Collingwood by 12. Not confident at all in that. But that is how we see round 11. Jump in the comments below. Let me know who you're tipping this week. That's pretty much all we've got for you. We'll be back again next week with another AFLW episode. We might do a bonus AFL men's episode ranking the whole competition, top 50 players probably. Maybe go through most clubs, every player just about. We'll see what we do with that. But so that will be coming out over the next couple of weeks either way. But yeah, that's everything we've got for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope your team gets the win this weekend in the AFLW. It should be a cracking weekend of football. A lot to play for a lot of teams. So we'll see how that all shapes up on the weekend. I'm Jay. This is All Aussie Rules Footy Podcast. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your way out. Go check out all of my social medias. We do a lot of tweeting, a lot of TikToking. So go check it all out. I thank you for being here. I'll catch you on the next one.